And so, you know, I think I was telling
Is
you
there a committee on the whole
next Monday, and it's all
we need
next
to talk
Monday.
about that.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because we got to come up with, we got to come up with something.
I think your plan is going to be just fold it to the village. But the cities can then take their
But
piece.
see, that's what I keep saying, is this is a huge opportunity. The court just made us do something that was probably unpleasant, right? Whatever we do, it was something that was too unpleasant to have already done 5 years ago, or we would
The
have done
city
it.
could take their piece.
Yeah,
right?
see, now, you're on to something that I think is very important.
I've already had conversations with Brian about that. So what are y'all doing? I guess we're just not going to repair the roads we've been repairing right now. Those are all your roads. That's what.
See, that's it. And so I just met with Central last week, and I said, I don't care how this thing turns out. We ain't coming in your city and repairing roads anymore. That day it's over.
Okay.
Yeah, and then they're going to pay for it out of their
They'll
own.
pay for it the way you pay for it, however they pay for it.
Yeah, that's
Now, Central didn't like that. We got to pull this.
because the only reason you had to do it because it was one fee. You had to
Right.
divide
It was one
Now
fee
you
that
divide
everybody
it.
paid.
Well, there's an agreement that was entered into a couple of years
Over
ago
the
though,
fee.
between Easley and
Central
the
and the county.
county and Central. That's right.
Oh, but the fee's gone.
But if the fee's gone, the agreement's gone.
My belief is we should.
See, I'm taking some positions here.
I'm with you. I'm with you. I hope
No, that's all.
I hope that's the case.
You know how we got the roads? Is the state said, we don't want these roads anymore. You're going to hear the people yelling, you maintain them. And once you maintain them, they're yours. Because, I mean, nobody deeded us any of these. I mean, 10% of the roads we got deeded. 90% of them, we just woke up and had them.
Yeah.
I'm wanting to keep that ball rolling.
We woke up and had them.
Everywhere. But there it's different. No, but our staff did. They did. And yeah, no. Chris had talked to
I need to talk to you real quick on this lease.
Yeah, Allison said you had some changes.
Yeah, and I talked to them about it. They don't have an issue with it, but we're gonna. This is third reading for it. With the pack, so let's approve it with the contingency Just do it. Just approve it. Just have it. Just sign it. And then that gives all. Major term.
Broad strokes.
He was on the school. Oh, yeah, yeah, me too. That's right. Yeah.
It's her responsibility.
No, it's my area. This is what it was designed to do.
We put up a new bridge too. So we put up a new bridge stations. First responders.
Yeah, it goes into all kinds of things. All kinds of things.
On the newsletter, I know.
Oh, I've seen some of the traffic.
Good evening. I call the July 12, 2021 meeting of the Pickens County Council to order. I'd like to thank everyone for being here with us tonight as we do the business of the county. Please remember this is a business meeting, and I hope that we can all be respectful and civil as we make our way through the agenda tonight. At this time, I'm going to ask Councilman Trey Whitehurst if he would lead us in the invocation.
Y'all please stand. Dear Lord, we want to give you thanks today for the many blessings you've bestowed upon all of us, just for the chance to live in this great country. And ask for your blessing over all the people here, and especially these council members making decisions that affect all the citizens of this county. We ask for your wisdom and guidance in making those decisions, and that our decisions would be in accordance with what you would like us to do. We ask you to put a hedge of protection over all the officers and military and all those people that put themselves in harm's way for this country and for this county. We ask all this in Christ's name. Amen.
Amen. All right, this time, Mr. Samuel Bolding is going to lead us in the pledge. Mr. Samuel Richard Bolding entered the United States Army on the 28th of May, 1968 at Fort Jackson, South Carolina, where he completed basic and advanced training. Private Bolding enjoyed a short-lived home to visit family prior to being deployed to Vietnam. One of Private Bolding's assignments took him to a hill near the Laotian border called Hell's Half Acre during the Tet Offensive. Samuel Bolding's tour of duty in Vietnam was from October of '68 to October of '69. Once his Vietnam tour of duty was complete, Sergeant Bolding came back to Fort Jackson for the remainder of his enlistment. Sergeant Samuel R. Bolding received the National Defense Service Medal, Marksman Badge for the M16 rifle, Sharpshooter Badge for the M14 rifle, the Vietnam Service Medal, the Vietnam Campaign Medal with 60 device, the Combat Infantryman's Badge, and the Good Conduct Medal. Veteran Samuel Richard Bolding served his country honorably, and today we show him appreciation and thank him for his service. Sergeant Bolding, would you please lead us in the pledge?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Sergeant Bolding. I have a small token of appreciation that I'd like to give you tonight. Thank you for being with us. Thank you for your service. At this time, this is our time for public forum. It's the opportunity for the community to give us feedback on issues that you feel are important. Madam Clerk, please call our first speaker.
Mr. Chairman and members of council, I call Melanie McClain.
Good afternoon, Chairman Bowers and serving councilmen. Thank you for the opportunity to address the council once again. As you will recall, I previously addressed the council on June 7th regarding conditions and activities at 1781 6 Mile Highway, property adjacent to my home as well as Daniel High School. My objective today is to continue the conversation. In addition to addressing the council on June 7th, I filed a FOIA with the Sheriff's Office regarding the incident on May 19th at Daniel High School property. It was June 29th before I received the information. I would like to draw to your attention that the facts show that it wasn't until after my FOIA was filed that meaningful action was taken to complete the issuance of trespassing notices for the school property to the individual involved. So you may ask, why bring the matter to the council when it appears to be law enforcement? And my response is simple. My request is all elected officials, county council, sheriff, and school board must work together to resolve the issues that we together have a vested interest for the community. I am asking the council to take the leadership role. I want to acknowledge recent action regarding code enforcement citations, and I want to publicly thank you. We must continue. Code violations lead to tenants on the property that result in activity that put our community at risk. In the case, the risk is great, and we know that now that the activity has already once spilled over onto Daniel High School property. On June 8th, one day after filing the FOIA and after addressing the council, my husband called the sheriff department because my children ran inside the home to get him. Once outside, he understood and reported the domestic situation between two females on the property that were physically fighting. On June 19th, a neighbor called the sheriff to report multiple gunshots, 11 shots fired that evening. Please note, back in January 2021, Sheriff Clark confirmed to me that several RVs had been moved onto the property and seemed to be occupied by a few men. Since the last time I spoke to you, we began noticing more females on the property. This situation is escalating, and we need your help. Please take the lead in collaborating with the administrator, Sheriff's Department, and school board to work toward a safer community. Several of our community members took time to join us today, and for that, I am grateful. Council, thank you again for your time and willingness to serve our community.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Lori Osborne, Pickens County resident and active voter. I come before you tonight to address the comprehensive plan that is now being developed for Pickens County by an out-of-state company. To my knowledge, no one has seen so much as a rough draft of this plan that is costing Pickens County taxpayers plus or minus $90,000. However, if this plan follows the template of other cities or counties, there will be a section entitled Land Use. This is where the 6 of you come in as the council members elected by the Pickens County residents. You have received or will be receiving over 600 signed petitions from Pickens County residents asking you all to sign a resolution agreeing to hold our private property rights first and foremost when reviewing and eventually approving this comprehensive plan. These signatures were collected over the past few months by concerned volunteers. Now, we're not saying that the 6 of you council members would ever approve anything that would allow any infringements on our rights, but you will not be sitting on that dais forever, and we would rather be proactive rather than reactive. And we need you to sign the resolution that will protect our private land rights as well as those of future generations. While acquiring these signatures, many people stated, we agree, we need our property rights protected now more than ever, but this won't help. Government does what it wants. Then there were those who agreed but did not want their name on any document going before a government entity. I found this both sad and infuriating at the same time. Why should people be afraid to stand up to protect something they or those before them worked so hard to acquire? Please prove them wrong and let them know that you do listen to their concerns, and at the very least, open the door of communication with your constituents regarding this most important matter. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Councilman. My name is Maggie Erickson, and I'm here to address Council about a dangerous property with chronic code violations at 1781 6 Mile Highway, which is adjacent to our property, other residences, and Daniel High School. Before I make any requests of the Council, I want to publicly acknowledge the progress made specifically by code enforcement since we last met on June 7th. According to public record, it appears the resident of 1781 has been cited by code enforcement on June 14th, 16th, 28th, and again today on July 12th, 2021 for a total of 10 separate violations. Thank you for following up on our request to inspect the property. We urge continued vigilance for the good of the community. Currently, the resident has 7 jury trials and 6 criminal cases pending. 4 were added just today, for which he will appear before the magistrate on July 21st at 10 a.m. While we realize we have the right to be at that appearance, it would be dangerous for us to be there, so we're relying on you, our public officials, to advocate for the law-abiding citizens who have suffered for years because of the residents' callous disregard for the law. We urge the county to seek the steepest penalties from the magistrate. The negative impact on the neighbors, Daniel High School, and our community is disproportionately larger than the $50 fines he's received in the past. He continually demonstrates willful disregard for the law and will not comply unless he is forced or removed from the property. The time for a measured approach has passed. While he gets slapped on the wrist, we endure chronic, dangerous, and disruptive activities and consistent loud noises at all hours of the day and night. My husband recently had major surgery and could not be here tonight. While he is supposed to be home resting and recovering, this is what we had to endure on July 5th. I'll play the sound from a video for you. This is taken from my house, which is more than 50 yards away from the neighbor. This is recorded on my phone at my back door. This went on for an hour and a half on July 5th. I won't play the whole one. You're welcome. Because Pickens County doesn't have a noise ordinance, we are routinely told that there's nothing we can do by public officials and law enforcement. Anderson, Oconee, and Greenville counties all have noise ordinances. And as my reading of each of those ordinances, there would have been recourse for us. My question is, why don't we have one? And would the council please consider developing one? When we addressed the council on June 7th, we asked to have the peaceful enjoyment of our property restored, as well as to help protect property values and the community at large. A collaboration between our elected officials on this council.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Gentlemen, your silence on conservatives of the upstate's resolution to protect property rights we presented to you to sign is very troubling. Tonight, I have turned over 646 signed petitions from citizens of Pickens County as proof there are plenty of people concerned. Thank you to all my members who worked so hard to collect these. As you bring in these out-of-state planners on our comprehensive plan, please tell us, what guarantees do we have that you will protect our property rights? Will this comprehensive plan include language that protects our property rights from infringement? We all know you took an oath to protect our constitutional rights, but we would like to have your personal John Hancock on a resolution that will give us greater assurance. When the Pickens Doodle was first in discussions about being built, my group wanted to do a survey of the citizens who lived along the Doodle path to find out what those property owners thought about the government taking their property. The railroad agreement was if the track was ever abandoned, that the property reverted back to them. Taking away property for the common good to make a walking track was very controversial at the time. Myself and two other of our members knocked on doors of homes along the track, and not one of the homes we knocked on even knew there was a plan to build the walking track. Not one. This, gentlemen, is not what transparent government that wants to protect property rights looks like. It is my belief that if my group had not gotten involved, the citizens along the Doodle track would not have known they needed to be justly compensated. Those citizens found out after the wheels were already in motion, not before their property was infringed. That is why we want assurances from this council that nothing like that will ever happen again. It is our right to be brought into the conversations ahead of time, before the wheels of property right infringement takes place. All our petition basically asks for is transparency and timely notification of policies that will affect landowners, giving us a chance to have input on regulations that will affect our property. If you say, no, we can't sign this resolution, we the people deserve an explanation as to why you can't. It is indeed very troubling that our elected cannot sign a simple document that says they will protect our property rights. What are you hiding is the first question that comes to my mind when wondering why you all are so silent on signing this resolution. We presented it to you as council correspondence back in April, and I have only heard a response from Inslee Feimster, who told me he had forgot about that email, but no affirmation from him that he'd sign it. This board needs to respond tonight to our plea. I've talked about it the last 3 public forum meetings,
Thank you, Ms.
and your
Raines.
silence is very troubling.
Thank you, Ms. Raines.
We deserve
Thank you.
a response.
Good evening, Council. Just wanted to bring y'all up to date on Clemson Paul Partners and the clinic. We finished phase 1, which was renovation. We're on phase 2, which is pretty much finished with the equipment being moved in. Of course, phase 3 will be dealing with DHEC and trying to get a vet and get a vet tech and all that. But we are still financially solid, no debt. We haven't borrowed money, so we're in good shape. Donations are hit and miss still. What I'm disappointed about is we have been basically supported by the Clemson area. And the issues with animals that are in need come from the rest of the county. So I don't know if it's the education level or what, but the word's just not getting out in the rest of the county. However, this weekend, we're having a Microchip Your Pet Day at the clinic. You'll also have an opportunity, and I would love for y'all to come. It's from 9 to 6, where you can tour the clinic. We think Channel 4 is going to be there. I know Greg Oliver with the Journal will be there on Friday, and just give us some more exposure and let y'all know what we've done. And that building, it looks awesome. It looks really good. But this is such a great thing and what it's going to do to serve our community. And we just need to get the word out to the rest of the county. And I don't know, Mr. Roper, if y'all can help us with that, but we know we want to help everybody. There was a situation today where this lady called wanting to rent a trap. Well, we do rent traps, and we rent them for $25, and then if they bring them back, they get the $25 back. Well, she said she'd call the shelter. Shelter said, no, we're still under COVID. So I thought, well, that's a little odd. So I got to thinking. So I communicated with the shelter, and they said, no, nobody like that's called us. So I think people get confused with the shelter and the Humane Society. I don't know if the Humane Society is still under COVID or not. I have no idea. But I think if we could get some message out, the difference between the Humane Society and the shelter. We've gone to a couple of, well, one in particular, to a court case where 2 ponies were removed. I feel like our presence there as citizens made the difference in getting this defendant charged more than he would have normally been charged. And as far as you ladies, I would encourage somebody from your group to show up at the court hearing. It will make a difference. It will make a difference. I'll go for you. But it does make a difference in, we're a great county, but our mindset needs to change. We got to improve on things and become more professional, or we're going to still look like a bunch of hillbillies. So we need to work at that. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Thompson.
Good evening. On June 7th, I sent council members copies of my concerns and comments about the animal abuse ordinances in Pickens County. Since I didn't get to speak because of time constraints that evening, I would like to revisit some of those points. Just a note, the residents who spoke that evening about the drugs, trash, health issues, hazards, take your pick, at that property on 93 next to Daniel High School, those conditions have not been addressed, and I mean for many years. I go to church right up the road, and I've watched that deteriorate for 5 years. So something really needs to come down hard on that guy. Having said that, my issue tonight concerns the Journal interview in June between Captain James of Pickens County and reporter Greg Oliver. The officer stated in that interview that 2,200 calls had been responded to in 2020 with a collection of 1,200 animals. Although this might be commendable, it is important to know how many were repeat offenders, how many fines were issued, how many arrests were made, and any other pertinent facts about these cases. Statistics can be useful as a defense, but they don't always reflect the makeup of the entries. He also stated that the application of the law can be based on the financial status of the perpetrator. Really? there is always the option of community service for these people, and they can go down to the animal shelter and help them clean up the place. We want action on our recommendations, and we want follow-up on reports and results from the collaboration between the council and the sheriff. Let us quit kicking this can down the road, gentlemen. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Alan Quinn from Easley. Y'all know me well. I normally come here to speak to you about lack of economic development in Pickens County and the liberal, progressive, socialist, one world agenda that has been pushed on the suburbs nationwide. Pickens County is one of them. We're a suburb to Greenville, which is a regional center. So that means we're going to get the bad stuff. If you don't take proactive action soon in this arena, we will only have undesirable jobs, undesirable housing here. So I'm asking you, I've been coming for a year and a half, over a year and a half to talk to you. I haven't seen any action, and I wish you would take some action just to let us know that you're doing something. But now I have something good to tell you about, and we'll just put that away for now until next meeting. On behalf of the Republican Party in Pickens County, I'd like to invite y'all and everybody here to our Freedom Rally this weekend, Saturday, July 17th, from 5 to 9 p.m. We're going to have the Corey Stevenson Band there. Congressman Jeff Duncan will be speaking. Senator Rex Rice will be speaking. Senator Josh Kimbrell will be speaking. We'll have classic cars, we'll have games, vendors, bring your lawn chairs, and admission is only $10. And we would love to have any of the conservative members of council that can come and join us for the Saturday on the 17th.
Where is that located?
Easy Bend Farm in Eden, right behind Rock Spring Church. This guy with the red hat's got flyers. If anybody wants a flyer after the meeting, you pick up a flyer.
Thank you, Mr. Quinn.
Look forward to seeing all of you.
Thank you.
My dog ate my notes. Guys, I just want to say, we moved to this county, sorry lady, to become a hillbilly. Yeah, right. Oh, I love it too. Yeah. Listen, guys, this is the first time I've been involved somewhat, and I love our Constitution. We just prayed, thank you for that prayer, that God would put a hedge around our country, around our people who served. And I take that very seriously. I'm a first-generation immigrant, I guess. Somebody asked me, are you from here? I said, can't you tell? So just saying, we are here as a people together, all of us. You're not up there as somebody special. We're not down here as somebody special. We are people trying to work for the same thing. Otherwise, that blood that has been spilled on those battlefields is in vain. Now, I've been blessed to run businesses in Maryland. That's where we moved from. And one of the things I just want to encourage us is when I came here, forgive my language, I didn't bring my crap with me from Maryland. This is a very special place. Let us as a people not change things to somebody coming from outside just because there's a pressure. I just want to make that clear. Otherwise, in the sense, if I'm a guest somewhere, if I am going somewhere, we've been to Africa and other places, We don't bring America there. I know we are one nation under God, but there is a specific culture in specific places. We lived in New Jersey, we lived in Massachusetts, Maryland, of course. So I just want to end this little thought with, let us understand one thing. It is about we, all of us, the people. If we forget that, we are forgetting our oath to what we pledged, earlier, one nation under God. And I know I've got 33 seconds here, but if I might just say this, I do not want to be called a minority. I'm Christian first, I'm American second. The word minority is used as a very divisive tool. So please, gentlemen, do not get sucked into this globalist mindset. I just want to share my heart here. I hope it makes sense. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Hi, good evening. I've come here tonight to just raise awareness about regional government. I don't know how much you all know about regional government, how much you think about it. I'm sure it is very involved in your life. You know, it's become very ubiquitous, and I think it's time for us to explore it further. It has a lot of benefits, but it has some unintended consequences that aren't really discussed in this relatively new form of government. Regional government does offer some benefits. It's efficient in providing streamlined decision-making, so that provides cost savings, and not all issues stop at political boundaries, so there is some value in cooperation and coordination with neighboring governments. But however, there are some important disadvantages to implementing and depending on regional government. These real costs are invisible and they're rarely examined or discussed. A primary concern with regional government is a fundamental change to our type of governing system that we have traditionally had in this nation, we understand. You know, as you know, we have a 7-boundary republic, which is dual federalism in the United States, and the maintenance of these invisible boundaries and controls is imperative to preserving our representative government with its separation of powers. But what regionalism does is it blurs these lines, these critical boundaries and controls, and since its leadership is appointed rather than elected, this dilutes our representative government. And citizens lose control by the forming of these public-private partnerships between multiple levels of government and non-governmental stakeholders. At issue here is not the jurisdiction, at issue is the jurisdiction, not the cooperation between the entities. Some of these regional councils of government, these COGs, actually cross state lines and involve North Carolina. And as our county services, healthcare and law enforcement and others become regionalized and their governance is outsourced to professional managers, eventually mayors, along with county councils, city councils, will become mere figureheads. And they will have little say in the workings of local government. The efficiency of this system will come at the cost of the loss of representative government to our citizens. Centralized control and decision-making, and with it the loss of these boundaries, is the antithesis to our 7-boundary republic. Now, I'm realist here. I know given the widespread application and its undeniable benefits, it's probably not realistic to completely abolish regional government altogether, but perhaps a more balanced approach is needed. With its tremendous influence and the resulting permanent changes to our form and our function of governing, I think greater awareness by the citizens and elected officials alike of what regionalism is
Thank you.
and its permanent ramifications is warranted.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Next up on our agenda tonight is the approval of minutes from the June 3rd budget work session, June 7th meeting, and the June 14th council meeting. Do I have a motion and a second?
I move we approve them.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Vice Chairman Costner. Discussion.
I would like to add one item to the June 3rd minutes under the litter control officers section. What I want the minutes to add is the following statement. The motion reallocated $130,878 of the Sheriff's Office 2021-22 budget request to fund 2 litter control officers. The Sheriff's 2021-22 funding was $15,761,184, or for a year-over-year increase of $396,898.
So I have a motion that we add that amendment to the June 30 work session. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Wilson. Any discussion on that? All those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. Any other discussion on any other of the minutes as presented and amended? All those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. That's unanimous. Thank you, gentlemen. Next up on our agenda tonight is the administrator's report. Mr. Roper.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, members of council, for the opportunity to update you on a couple of items that we have here tonight. As we've done many times, wanted to start with the COVID update. The numbers have not been bad in Pickens County. As a matter of fact, we've been in a low incident rate here the last few weeks. Although I just wanted to emphasize a couple things. One is we have seen an uptick in the numbers the last few days, whether that's a result of some variant. I don't pretend to be an expert on that, or it's just because people got together over the 4th of July weekends with families and sort of thing. I don't know, but what I wanted to do is encourage people. The one thing we know that we can do is the vaccination. And in Pickens County, about 35, going on 36% of our population has been vaccinated, had both shots of the 2-shotter or 1 shot of the 1-shot vaccine. But we want to let you know that our vaccination clinic is available. If you can't find another means by which to get the vaccination, it's now being held at the museum. The Sheriff's Office hosted it for many weeks, but we decided it was better to move it to the museum so it could serve a wider segment of the population. Those dates and times have changed. So Tuesdays and Thursdays from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. you can make an appointment through the DHEC website, or you're welcome to walk in. And so we wanted to make sure the public knew that, because the vaccination process really does signal a lot of hope for us in that. The other thing I wanted to update you all on is, over the last couple of months, I've given you an update with green, red, yellow on our capital purchases. We've now refreshed that, since all of the capital purchases that could be made were made from last year's budget. And now we started a new budget. You'll see all of this is in white, which means basically we're at the stage where we're just entering this into the system. But you'll see month over month when I report back to you as we make those orders. It's our intention to make all the capital orders as quickly as we can, because we anticipate, and you no doubt have heard it in your own businesses, that supply chain issues are a problem. So we're going to go ahead and try to get those orders in. And you should see that update with this changing some colors to yellow, where we've ordered some things for you. I wanted to let you know that we'll keep you updated on that. Another thing is, in fitting with one of council's goals, the third goal for this year, which was to promote a culture of public service. One of the things we talked about that in the meeting where you all set those goals was, how are we going to train our force that we have, our folks that are in our workforce now at the county? How are we going to train the next generation of leaders? And what we did last year was we sent 4 of our younger kind of future leaders to the NACO High Performance Leadership Institute. This is an organization, NACO, a subset that provides training to our next generation of leaders through a program that's led by several different folks, but including retired General Colin Powell, talking about leadership. So far, all of the people that we've sent to that through that leadership program have reported directly to the administrator, and we'll probably stay with that for the time being until we make sure that we've got a good cadre of leadership in the future here within the reporting to the administrator. But I want to congratulate and tell you all that our next 4 were selected. We used our previous 4 attendees to help us select the folks that they thought would be the leaders in conjunction with their supervisors. And it's from the assessor's office, Katie Corbin; from our information systems office, Austin Dunn; from our purchasing department, although he blends over into the assessor's office now, is Trad Julian; and from Roads and Bridges, Jamie Reynolds.
These 4 individuals will be going through a 12-week online leadership program that'll get feedback from both me and from their direct supervisor. Last year we had good results with it. We're using it as a backbone to start our own county employee leadership program. So I wanted to report back to that and thank those individuals for investing in themselves. A couple of things on solid waste. One is to update you on the sort facility. You all were kind enough to authorize the building of a sort facility to ease some of the stress on our transfer station. That material has all been delivered, and our workers have been working diligently over the last several days to get that facility installed. You see in the upper right there where they're laying down some geotech fabric that's required once they got the areas leveled. It's required by DHEC because that's sitting on the old part of the landfill. So that's underway, and we anticipate, because we've had good weather over the last week or so, that pad should be completed by this Friday. So we're excited about that. The shredder that you all also authorized, we anticipate that's going to be delivered on July 21st. So we're excited about getting these pieces of equipment in and this facility up and going, and then to see where our challenges might be alleviated. But I wanted to update you on that. And then, since we're always given, the stresses with solid waste, I wanted to give you a good report. There's a neighbor that lives directly across from our landfill, and that neighbor through the years has been a very good quality control check with us. He communicates freely with us. He's been in my office more than once to tell us how things are going with the landfill and the cleanliness. And he, without prompting from us, sent us a picture on the 6th of July. You'll see that. And his quote was, "What a difference a year makes." On the left, he shows April 2020 and how the middle of the facility looked. And then he took a picture without us knowing it on July the 6th. So I know that we get a lot of negative feedback on the recycling centers because they've been so stressed and because we've changed the mechanism by which we do everything here in the county just recently. But I wanted to give you the good report and let you know that we are making progress and we'll continue to work on that progress. So we thank you for your understanding and contributions to that process.
That was the time period in which you were lined up the road.
I'm sorry, I didn't.
Last year, remember, we had that big burden at the beginning of COVID.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. So there is a difference in what was going on. We were overwhelmed in April of 2020. You're right, Mr. Chairman. But we're excited about steps forward. Update you next on Pickup Pickens. We're excited to report that the word has gotten out on social media. These are 2 feeds that are not our feeds. This is the Knights of Columbus on the right, and that's the Pickens County YMCA on the left, both doing their assigned road mileage and promoting it online and using it as a positive thing for them. We've gotten that report from several people from Pickup Pickens. We've used it to leverage some of our local litter sweeps. We had the South Carolina Aquarium doing a litter sweep in Pickens County last week, which was very nice. They're actually documenting, and we'll bring some of this data back to you, the types of litter. Not just that there is a litter, but the types, so that we could look at perhaps policy changes or things that we would need to advocate for to cut down on the litter. And so they're going to give us some of that back. South Carolina Aquarium's working on that. Several of our staff members participated in it. And then continuing with the theme of litter, gentlemen, you were kind enough to allocate money for 2 new litter control officers that would report to me, that would be responsible to the administration. And I wanted to let you know that we've developed that job description. We've really focused that job description on being out, being active, being engaged with the public, and enforcing our existing litter ordinances. Those jobs are posted. Those 2 jobs are posted live even as we speak. So please encourage anyone you know that might be interested in those jobs. Very important, very timely, very good thing for our community if we can find people who are passionate about it. And then, as a couple of the folks have mentioned during the public forum, I wanted to update you on the code enforcement issues on 6 Mile Highway. We've got a total of 15 ordinance violations that have been issued out there. Some of them go back to January of 2019, March of 2019, January of 2020, February of 2020, coming up to May of 2020. And then, based on the feedback we received from public forum, you'll see that we upped our enforcement measures. We went out on the 10th of June, the 14th of June, the 21st of June, the 29th of June, and then the 6th of June. And apparently, The citizens have updates that I didn't have because we apparently went back out today. But regardless, I'm glad to hear that. I didn't get that report. The court date is coming up on July 21st. I put the county attorney on notice that unless he gives me advice to the contrary, I'm going to appear myself at this hearing. And so I'll seek his guidance. But I'm going to see if the court might entertain putting conditions of bond on this gentleman while he continues to be out and continues to violate. I would encourage the citizens that do feel comfortable to come, that will make an impact. I've asked the county attorney to look into potential civil action that we might be able to break in addition to the criminal enforcements that we're doing. And I just wanted to let you know that we're taking this seriously, communicating with the sheriff's office, and we thank the citizens for continuing with the report. Gentlemen, the last thing that I have for you, and I don't have a slide for this because it came up in the last few days, is you're all aware, because you've received it from the clerk, the recent action of the state Supreme Court when it comes to user fees. We have met with the treasurer, with the auditor, had the county attorney meet with them to give them advice on the implications of that Greenville County case, and we look forward to talking to you all about potential solutions to that issue. It's on the Committee of the Whole log for next Monday night, so we'll be talking more about that and ask to get a legal briefing at that time. Gentlemen, that's all I have prepared for you. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer them.
Any questions for Mr. Roper?
I've got a couple of things. Is it appropriate for us to write some sort of a letter to the magistrate's office? I know you're coming, which I think is awesome, but I just don't think we can respond strong enough here, because these people have done this repeatedly and in the face of Pickens County and the residents of this Pickens County with this, and it's just not right. And I know, is there any further measure we can do to build the full force of law? I mean, it's one thing to give someone a fine, but we've got to somehow prevent them from doing this further. And I don't know the law well enough, and so we've got two lawyers here.
That's right. Well, I guess I would say that you have one here in that I'm not actively practicing, and the old adage is someone who represents themselves has a fool for a client. So I'm going to seek that specific legal advice from Mr. Hendricks. What more can we do, whether it be civilly or in other means? I am a little hesitant to send a letter to the magistrate about a specific case, but I will seek his guidance on that to see if it's appropriate.
Well, so that the magistrate knows this is not like a first-time offender where you got to say, hey, you shouldn't be doing this. This is a hardened criminal.
So, your memory, if it serves, thinking back, I know that we've addressed the DSO over the years. There was some compliance issues that the magistrate had brought up, which caused some of the grief that we were undergoing at the time. We addressed those, if memory serves correctly, we did address those, which actually gives the authority and the power that they do have currently. I guess the real question is, would it be more appropriate to send a letter strongly encouraging them to the fullest extent that it is written, and if you just happen to cite, as for instance, would that be more appropriate? Because really and truly, this is a one-off, but there are so many other across the county that we've come across throughout the years, whether it be animal or whether it be property or whether it be whatever.
Yeah, we'll look into that, because I agree that this is not a circumstance where we just write a ticket and then move on down the road. This is a repeated problem for a very, very concentrated area in our county. That subdivision, there's a lot of houses, there's a school there, there's a fire station there, there's a lot of things there together. So it would be appropriate for us to follow up at every avenue that we could.
And if we pass an ordinance, we expect it to be enforced.
That's right.
If not, why do we waste our time passing it?
That's right. And in that regard, I hate to have a prop here, but you'll recall that our code enforcement folks, our community development folks, had a code day where they had people come by, sheriff's office, fire department. Mr. Hendricks came by from as a county attorney. The result of that is now in. They've produced a report for me to review. But they gave it to me on Thursday, and I was out of town over the weekend, so I've not had time to review it. But it brings up specific recommendations of the places that perhaps, and I point in the area where the folks that have spoken about animal issues were sitting. I apologize, they're not there now. But areas in our ordinances where we could recommend changes. So I wanted to let you know that we are following up on that.
So, Mr. Hendricks, to Councilman Whitehurst's point, opinion?
Yeah, I think that it would be, rather than having a letter from council directed to an individual citizen at a magistrate's court case, that it would be better for an attorney for the county to present the case as he would present any other case. He represents himself as a fool for a lawyer, and Ken doesn't need, Mr. Roper doesn't need to be there with counsel as his employer, directing him to say things in a criminal case, which has its own rules, without him being represented. So I understand, and in a package that we could present to the magistrate, because I don't think we're precluded from doing that, then a statement from either counsel or the administrator, I think, would be appropriate to present to the magistrate.
So could we send you to prosecute?
To represent the county?
Yes.
That's correct.
Is that more appropriate than the administrator going?
Well, I think the administrator should go as well.
So you should both go?
That's right.
So can we count on both of y'all being there, and then you, in your lawyer speak in the language, to pursue the action that we're requesting?
I do think it would communicate to the court just by our physical presence how seriously this council takes it, if we've got both the county attorney and the county administrator present. So I appreciate that.
I'd like to attend that also.
So we'll make sure you have that court date. It's court, I apologize, I turned it off. Court is, unless the judge closes a hearing, court is open in this state. So that's perfectly appropriate.
Send that to all of us.
Yes, please.
That'd be great. I have more questions.
All right, Councilman Whitehurst.
My understanding is we have a loose noise ordinance, do we not?
We do. Thank you for bringing that up. There is a noise ordinance. It is designed, however, for continuous, like manufacturing noise. So I know the sheriff's office, when they go to enforce, when they show up, if they don't hear it, then they don't think it triggers the ordinance. So it is, as you would say, a loose noise ordinance. The folks that say we don't have one, whether they be law enforcement or citizens, is just as inaccurate. We do have one. It may need adjustment now that we're all getting a little closer together as our community is growing, but that would be something that you all would need to consider.
So can that be something in that book that you have there?
I'll double check to see if that's one of the recommendations.
It is. It is.
Because we have something, but I know it's not, it's a little, and of course they're going to be, code enforcement is a little bit tied on it, and the sheriff's not going to do anything he doesn't have to do.
This was after hours on a whatever night, July 5th, which is technically still, it was a county holiday. Codes enforcement wouldn't have been here. It was the middle of the day, codes enforcement.
No, I just meant as far as what they would do. I think there is a decimal level.
There is, and it's measured at the property line.
Which I would think that would probably have surpassed it.
Yeah.
So
we'll look into that further as well. Thank you.
You just one more citation on that.
Councilman Whitehurst.
Sorry, I know I have several. I made several notes.
Go for it.
Is it possible to put the Paul Partners website link on our site?
I'm not sure if it isn't already, but I'll double check that. We're
trying to help them to
yeah, because they're a huge key to what we intend to do. We're basically outsourcing a whole spay and neuter program to them, and that's part of the policy decision you all made when you agreed to rent Ms. Thompson the building. So yeah, we'll look at what we can do. I'm certainly going to attend that event and see if I can't promote it on social media as well, but we'll look at other more formal means.
And there was a question about the follow-up with the sheriff. We've met with him several times on this code enforcement of the animals. How is that going?
I don't have a more recent update on that other than what we did in looking at the codes as a whole, so I'll have to report back to you on that.
That is actually the last meeting we had. That book right there was the next step.
Okay, so that's the meeting on that. Just as a point to remind you, council did not get involved with the Doodle Trail. We said this is a problem with personal property rights, and the Doodle Trail was put together by the city of Pickens and the city of Easley. Is that correct?
That is correct. We were not involved in that project.
So, to your point about council, this would not be the council on that.
Anything else from Mr. Roper?
Nope, I'm done, thank you.
I have a question. What was the library's final spending figure for the fiscal year ending June 30th?
I do have that figure. For the end of the fiscal year, June 30th, there are still some bills coming in, not major bills, small bills still coming in. But the total spending that we have right now of record is $3,433,308.63. That's $3,433,308 and some change.
What was the final cash balance?
Their cash balance as of June 30th, because obviously it changes, but as of the end of the fiscal year, was $3,464,340, and it appears to be 16 cents.
Okay, so
3.4 million.
Okay, so this past year the library saved $500,000. The year before they saved $463,000. The year before that $344,000. My proposal had their spending up about 2.5%. The county's proposal had their spending up about 7.5%. I know a lot of you have heard that there was discussion or talk about my proposal, or Henry was proposing to cut their spending next year. These numbers prove that never was discussed. It was never proposed. That was untrue and people were misled.
Anything else from Mr. Roper? Here are no other questions from Mr. Roper. We'll move on to committee reports, item number 5 on the agenda, and I have no committee reports. Item number 6, council correspondence. The committee of the whole meeting will be next Monday, July 19th at 6 o'clock in the main conference room of the admin building. The next council meeting will be held on Monday, August 16th at 6:30 here in the council chambers. Boards and commissions, an information table is set up in the lobby this evening with more information about current vacancies and upcoming openings on the Pickens County Board and Commissions. If you or a family member may be interested in serving on a board, please stop by the table or please see the clerk to council, Megan Nations, for more information. The next after-hours opportunity fair will take place on Monday, August 16th, in all seriousness, from 5 to 6:30. If you know someone or if you hear someone talking, encourage them to come out. They can stick around for the council meeting. Is there any other correspondence that need to be announced? Hearing none, we'll move to motion period new business. Does any member of council have any motions at this time?
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion.
Councilman Whitehurst.
We've got a resolution, it's the first time I've read this, about property rights citizens. I'd like to add this to the consent agenda for us to review.
So I have a motion that we move the property rights resolution as presented tonight to the consent agenda. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Vice Chairman Costner. Any discussion? All those in favor of adding this to consent agenda, please signify by raising your hand. That's unanimous.
Thank you.
Any other new business? All right. Hearing none, we'll move to item number 8. 8 is a consideration of a resolution 2021-19 recognizing August 2021 as National Immunization Awareness Month. Do I have a motion and a second?
Motion.
Motion by Councilman Feimster. Do I have a second? I'll second. Any discussion on this resolution?
Yeah, I'd like to speak on this. I oppose this for 3 reasons. One, whether or not somebody should be vaccinated is a decision between an individual and his doctor. I don't think Big Brother should be involved. Second thing...
I missed the last part. I
don't think Big Brother should be involved. The second thing is, I support recognizing outstanding citizens and notable employees, but these declarations like Boat Safety Week or Emergency Medical Services Week improves nothing and they're just symbolic. Do we really have to tell people about boat safety? I don't think so. I mean, EMS is a top priority of mine. I support building a new station in Easley, and I hope we do that. But empty resolutions and lip service is not what we're about. It's surely not what I'm about. And third, we've put a lot of things on the back burner, and I can give a long list that things are either in committee and being worked on. And I think those things should be in this agenda, and we should be tackling those things. I think resolutions like this are really just empty resolutions, and I would rather just end them totally. So I don't support this for those three reasons.
Thank you, Mr. Sato. Any other discussion? Councilman Hurst.
I think we do resolutions in support of a lot of actions community-wide. We've got someone here who wants us to say that, we believe in property rights. Well, we do, and I agree with you. A lot of them, they're redundant. We did a resolution on gun rights, and they ended up making an ordinance on it, which I thought was a terrible piece of legislation. But that was a personal view on it. But this particular resolution, I do have a qualm with, because that is going into telling people about, there's a lot of religious reasons and a lot of reasons where people might not want to get vaccinated. And I think promoting that is an individual choice. So I agree with you on that stance, but as overall, we do a lot of resolutions because it does make people feel good about stuff. And some of them, don't mean a lot, but it's nice to recognize our nurses, and it's nice to recognize our EMS, and it's nice to recognize those people that do put their life on the line. I know when I go to work every day, I don't have too much fear of dying unless I'm riding on 85. But outside of that, it's not something I do every day. So I do want to have that opportunity to say thank you to those people, and that's part.
Vice Chairman Costa.
Go ahead.
Councilman Whitehurst, I agree with you 100%. I think I like it when we have the opportunity to recognize those first responders and to show them an appreciation. This is the first resolution that I've seen where, I don't mind saying I had COVID. I got vaccinated. I did all those things. I don't ever want to go through that nonsense again. But it's a personal choice. And I feel funny about telling somebody, go talk to your doctor. That's kind of like something that we do anyway. So I don't know, be it resolved that we think you should go talk to your doctor. I don't know that I can support this either because of the way that it's written.
The reason that I brought this up was because there are segments of the population who really don't realize that vaccinations are still available, and there are segments that aren't being vaccinated. Now, I didn't get COVID, and I haven't been vaccinated. Part of the reason is because my wife, she has a condition that vaccination could cause her to get into some real serious problems, because she has a thing called sweet syndrome, where her body will break out in sores all over if it becomes active.
Any other discussion? The only thing I will say is the resolution title itself has National Immunization Awareness Month. Either we do or we don't. That's a whole nother argument in my opinion. But I think it is important to bring awareness over certain issues, just like you said. The property rights issue, that's an awareness. That's what a resolution does, is makes people aware by definition. As far as the conversation on that you addressed about seeking doctors, nurses, other healthcare professionals to ensure you, your child, your family recommended vaccines, to the point of Inslee, what seems to be common sense sometimes is not common sense. And I think that's the intent is, hey, talk to somebody about whether or not, just kind of playing the flip to what you said. I think that's the purpose behind the wording in it. Nowhere in here does it say you need to go get your vaccine right now. It may lead you down that path, but stop short. I agree with that. The wording is not the best. But I think there's nothing wrong with having the conversation, just like the conversation about
cardiac health or stroke or anything else. And boater safety, you said that jokingly, or I know you said it seriously, but as long as we have folks dying in boating accidents, we need to do, even if it's a token resolution, we need to do everything we can to bring awareness to whatever the subject matter is. And that is, in my opinion, the purpose of these resolutions. It wastes a lot of time. Like at this moment, I think this is the most discussion we've ever had on a resolution, other than the gun one. We had a lot of discussion there. And I don't mean disrespect by saying that, because I don't like the wording necessarily either. But I do want to make the intent of this resolution, I think, is purely to bring awareness, because immunizations aren't right for everyone, for various reasons, whether it be religious, whether it be ethical, whether it be medical issues. Vaccines aren't right for everyone. But that's not an excuse not to bring awareness.
So to your point, I agree that making people aware of anything is not a bad idea, and you're not talking about specifically COVID in this, you're talking about from the flu to anything else. And so you're making people aware to get immunized where they can. However, in the political climate that we are in today, I don't see us taking a stand. I don't think the government should have any business telling somebody whether they get vaccinated or not. And somehow, you got to think about, to your point, you always say the unintended consequences. The perception is going to be that, oh, look at what county council is trying to tell us, that we got to all go get our vaccines. And it doesn't say that. But what the majority of the people are going to hear is that that's what we're saying, because of the political environment that we're in, or the climate that exists today. So I think that we should stay away from it.
If you don't mind.
Councilman Wilson.
I think this is like a seatbelt law awareness over a long enough period of time. It kind of addresses itself. People that don't want to be aware of seatbelts or to get vaccines for preventable diseases, they pretty much Darwinianly kind of walk themselves out the door. So folks that don't want to be aware of the impact of the polio vaccine or some of the other vaccines that folks have had to eliminate terrible diseases over the years, it's a pretty straightforward solution. If we don't have the cojones to support just basic common health requirements, in the face of political pressure, what kind of cojones are we going to have to fix real problems in the community? The only issue I have right here is where it says, whereas everyone should get a flu vaccine, and then the little part here where it says particular vaccines. Generally speaking, air conditioning, refrigeration. I have a hard time hearing. We're getting a little old there, Alan. So the couple of things here where it says everyone should get a vaccine and these things are available, they should do it. I think that's an overreach, but when it boils down to is vaccines in general, I've eliminated an awful lot of terrible diseases. I mean, I'm pretty glad I don't have to worry about getting polio. And thank goodness for the Rotary Club for making that a constant, consistent, and current issue all around the world. But if everybody's worried about what some wingnut's going to make out of us saying you should be aware that vaccines are a good thing, then by God, let's don't vote on it then. Let's just table it. So, motion to table this absolutely sensible resolution to make people aware of vaccines and their benefits to society.
I have a motion to table. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Second for the motion to table. Any other discussion on that motion?
I don't want to table it. I don't think we need to table this thing. I think there's a difference of opinion here. I think to Councilman Costner's point, it's not the political pressure. It's the role of government telling people what they have to do. And I think it goes down that slope where government says, we suggest you do this, and we think you ought to do this, and we think it's a good idea to do this. My son's being told he's got to do all these certain things to go to Clemson. Government's dictating to him. And what starts out as a suggestion and we want to make this awareness, the next step down that slippery road, which you often talk about, those unintended consequences, is government mandating it. We could be under a mandate where you can't travel without a vaccine. Those things are real and happening out there. And I think this type of a resolution just supports that idea of that they can say, well, yeah, they made a resolution. They made it aware of you. Then, next thing, we can't travel without a vaccine. And then what happens if Emily's wife wants to travel? you know? So I just think it's out. We're going to fight this on a national level. I don't think we need to drag it into the county and be a part of a national push on this. And so I agree with what Mr. Costner said on this, and I don't want to table it. Either we're going to vote it or we're not going to vote it, in my mind.
So, Mr. Chairman, like I said, there's an overreach here in these two line items that everybody should get a flu vaccine, and the part here where it says blah, 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 resurgence of COVID-19 and all. But if you look at all the other parts of it, it's preventable diseases. I mean, I'll just tell you, I didn't get vaccinated when I was a child, except for the fact that school asked for it, because my mother probably didn't have no idea what a vaccine was and never had one before in her life. And the only other times I got vaccines were where they were required by the U.S. military and to travel abroad, to move and live abroad. So whether or not somebody should get a flu vaccine, I usually try to skip the flu vaccine because it makes me feel terrible. And the coronavirus, I mean, good Lord, whether you get it or not is debatable. But the rest of it is just saying vaccines have helped people survive terrible things
So
for generations.
Are you withdrawing your table motion and
No,
making
no.
a motion to scrap those two lines?
You mean to withdraw that, to scrap those two guys?
To scrap those two lines?
No, I mean, I guess the reason I'm tabling is to give people the opportunity not to have to vote for something that's completely sensible in front of people that they think might skew it in some way.
Any other discussion on the motion to table? That's the motion at hand. All those in favor of tabling this motion, please signify by raising your hand. Opposed? It's 4-2. That motion died. All right, back to the original motion of this resolution. Any other discussion?
So I move to strike the part about the flu vaccine and the COVID piece of it out of the vaccines here. So it's basically saying that getting recommended vaccines on a schedule is the best way to protect your health and your family's health against serious diseases like polio or MMR, some of the other ones that you can get.
Tetanus.
Tetanus, oh, for good, yeah. No political reasons why you want lockjaw. Right. Every year, thousands of adults in the U.S. become seriously ill or hospitalized because of diseases that vaccines can prevent, and some even die from these diseases. Some folks don't know about certain types of things. I have cousins that think you can get pregnant from oral sex. You know, pretty much impossible to do, but they don't have a clue whether or not, because they've not been educated on health issues because of people that vote against these types of sensible things. Whereas in the U.S., vaccines have greatly reduced or eliminated many infectious diseases. Just look at the history of polio and about 25 other diseases that once routinely killed or harmed infants. Statistically speaking, 2/3 of this room would be lucky not to have somebody in their past that had one of these diseases that have been prevented by, by immunization. So I would say we strike those two line items.
So the motion is to strike the line about the flu and the line about the coronavirus vaccine. I'll second that motion to strike those two. Any discussion on that?
So I get this right, if I don't vote for this, your cousin's going to get pregnant because of me?
No.
Okay. They're going to get pregnant because anybody, they just like to have babies.
Any discussion on that motion? All those in favor of that motion to strike those two items, or those two lines, please signify by raising your hand. 3-3, that dies. So the original resolution. I did not. You're right. All those opposed. All those opposed.
I think you missed the vote.
Did I? Did you? All those in favor, please signify by raising your hand again. Opposed? I didn't ask for opposed, so I did. Yes. So the original resolution on hand. Any other discussion about the resolution as originally presented? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. Opposed? And that fails. Thank you. Item 9 on the agenda tonight, consideration of a plan from staff for fiscal year 2022, compensation adjustments within existing compensation plan, utilizing funds previously allocated by council. You'll all find a memorandum with some information from Mr. Roper. Mr. Roper, I will turn the floor over to you at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of council. If you'll recall, in the budget process, the council was kind enough to recognize the cost of living and provide county employees with a 2% cost of living adjustment that would be effective.
Check your mic.
I'm sorry. No, thank you. That would be effective as of now.
So that 2% cost of living adjustment. But one idea that council had, that council recommended to staff, is that you go ahead and allocate the other 1%, another 1%, and then staff develop a plan of how we could use that to address inequities in our pay system. The memo that you have in front of you is from our HR director. It points out a couple of things. The first of which I would tell you is that we are talking about, in most cases in what's in front of you, in 90% of the cases of what's in front of you, people whose salaries are FOIA exempt. FOIA would not allow you to know, the member of the public would not allow you to know what that person, that individual makes, because it's below a certain threshold. That's a privacy thing. And so we would ask that you not get into those kind of granular details here unless you want to get back into executive session to discuss them. The other thing I would point out that the HR director really was appreciative of is that this gives us as staff a tool to extend the life of our compensation study. You'll see some history of the compensation study there, where the compensation study was done and is now 5 or 6 years old. The cost of doing another one would be $50,000 or $60,000, and then the cost of implementation of that recommendation would be above and beyond. So the idea that you as a council would instead look at this year over year in a piecemeal fashion is something that HR got really excited about. They reached out to several departments to ask if there are any inequities that need to be addressed. And you'll see that sheet that gives more granular detail than really should be discussed in a public forum. But basically, we've come up with a way to address a couple of specific departments where we're wanting to be of help. I don't mind saying the department level, we're wanting to raise the pay and standards for recycling attendants, and we're wanting to raise the pay in appreciation of the work that many of our EMS professionals have done. So that's a large part of what the plan would do. We were constrained in the amount of money to spend because there was only a certain amount of money available, and we also knew that every time we increase compensation, we also increase retirement payments as well. So that's the reason you see the difference in the numbers. Anyway, gentlemen, you have that in front of you. I'd be glad to answer any questions. If you want to talk about specifics, I would recommend that we go into executive session for those discussions.
Mr. Chairman.
Councilman Waters.
May I make a motion we move this to committee to discuss? This is the first time I've really had time to look at it and get into more discussions about some of the particulars.
So I have a motion on the table to move this to committee.
I'll second that.
Second. Any discussion on that motion? All those in favor of moving this to committee for further discussion, since tonight's the first time we've seen this data, please signify by raising your hand. Thank you, Mr. Roper. Item 10 on the agenda tonight is third reading of ordinance number 601, authorizing the execution and acceptance of a lease for Long Shoals Roadside Park. I'll ask for a motion and second to constitute third reading of ordinance number 601.
So moved.
I have a motion. Do I have a second? Second. I have a second. Any discussion?
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Section 7 on restrictions, item E says no operation of any OHV without written approval. So we had to get written approval to send a four-wheeler down there to rescue someone that's broken their back on the rock.
And actually, Councilman Wilson, if I could, Mr. Chairman, to address that, there's a couple of I guess I would call them quibbles that the county attorney has, and much like we've done with the last couple of leases, he's going to work those out once you all determine that you want to go forward with the big plan of leasing this. So he's come up with a couple of things I think he's talked with the attorney for the Forestry Commission about already. It'll be minor language changes like security, ATVs, things like that. But we're talking more tonight, broad strokes, what the council wants to do.
Can I make a comment?
Councilman Waters.
This is the third reading of this. To me, it seems like we ought to have this thing all dotted up, crossed up, finished up, and this is what we're agreeing to. I don't know we can go back afterwards and say, we want to make a little.
No, and I apologize if that's the implication I'm giving. Instead, what I'm saying is that the attorneys may work out language that reflects our agreement more appropriately. There's a couple of changes that Mr. Hendricks recognized just this week. The idea that we would, the word security needs to be further defined. It's small things like that, but we certainly are anxious to move forward with starting to doing the maintenance out there that needs to be done. So the small little quibbles, I'll let Mr. Hendricks address.
Mr. Hendricks.
Yeah, there are several issues with this list. I got the lease early on when it was a term list of what was to be in the lease, made suggestions. It was drawn by the state, and what they ended up doing is they took a lease that they had somewhere else, and they tried to transpose that lease into a lease for Pickens County at Long Shoals. And the translation is missing. And so by the time I saw that it was ready for a third reading, I asked for the lease, got the lease, went over the lease, and said, these things can't happen. And so I contacted the person with Forestry Commission this afternoon and said, do you really want us to have flood insurance on the river? Do you really want us to be required to have security at Long Shoals? And is that 24/7 or what is it? He said, oh no, those are for the other counties. I said, well, we can't do this. I said, let me make suggestions. Council is looking at it tonight, and the only way that I'm going to be comfortable with them approving it is if they do it contingent upon that they authorize the administrator to sign it with the basic terms that we've got, but only with approval of the county attorney, and contingent upon the approval of the county attorney. Because this lease is not ready to sign.
Well,
Do you want to?
Go ahead. As much as I want to move forward with this, I make a motion that we
table it.
Well, it's not table.
Well, let's just see, can you get this resolved in 2 weeks, by next month? Because we table it, it'll go back to the next meeting.
I can, and the person that I'm working with can. The issue is that they are bound by the Department of Administration. Okay, and if there's a significant term of this lease that changes, then they have to get the Department of Administration to approve their lease.
So my question,
But it's possible.
Vice Chairman Costa.
Okay, so you don't know that is there any other reason that we need to move forward with this expeditiously other than we want to improve the quality of life for the people who live here? But other than that, is there a reason we need to move faster?
No, I think you've stated it accurately. We're anxious as a staff to get involved down there and fix that problem, that eyesore, but we want to go at the speed that you gentlemen are comfortable with.
So my motion is to move this to the next council meeting.
I'll second the motion to move this to the next council meeting. I would like to add the caveat after my second, that I would love to see what you would like to see changed. I'd love to see what you present to them, because it would be, just kind of keep us up to speed a little quicker so that if we have questions, concerns, we're not back here next month doing the same thing again. Any other?
I'll be glad to do that. As soon as I get all of the changes that we need made and present that to them, I will present it to council at the same time. That way it's passed.
Any other discussion on that motion to put this till next month? All those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. That's unanimous. Thank you, gentlemen. Item number 11 is third reading of ordinance number 600, develop a jointly owned and operated industrial business park in conjunction with Oconee County. Such industrial business park to be geographically located in Oconee County and established pursuant to section 4-1-170 of the Code of Law of South Carolina, 1976 as amended, to provide for a written agreement with Oconee County to provide for the expenses of the park, the percentage of revenue application, and the distribution of fees in lieu of ad valorem taxation and other matters related thereto. Do I have a motion and a second to constitute third reading of ordinance number 600?
Motion.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Whitehurst. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. Item number 12 on the agenda tonight is the consent agenda. I have property right resolution as presented to us tonight. Was there anything else on the consent? Do I hear a motion that we accept the consent agenda?
Motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor? That's unanimous. Come to item 13 on the agenda tonight, gentlemen.
Motion to adjourn.
I have a motion to adjourn. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second. Any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. Thank you. We stand adjourned.